Hey guys, what's up? Green Machine Sam back with another video. And today we have another perfect offseason video regarding the LA Chargers. They were one win away from getting into the playoffs and arguably have a very talented team. Injuries on their offensive line and their defensive line, as well as their defensive back group, really hurt them last year. Let's just put that out there. I think if Justin Herbert was on any other solid team that made the playoffs last year, I think he takes them farther than what they actually did. I think Herbo is better than Joe Burrow. Herbo is better than Joe Burrow. I'm going to say that. Playoff wins are not a QB stat. Wins in general are not a QB stat. You ranking somebody because he made the Super Bowl in his second year is fucking ridiculous. And if you're the same people that hold Patrick Mahomes down because he has made the AFC Championship his first 4 years, all 4 years, I swear to God, if you say he had a rookie year, he played one fucking game, call me your shit. Like, everybody that's putting Joe Burrow at the top of these lists, being like he's the best quarterback, or even Matt Stafford, are the same people that want to shit on Justin Herbert, that want to shit on Patrick Mahomes, that want to shit on Tom Brady, being like, oh, they didn't make it to the Super Bowl, I guess they're bad. Like, no, that's not how that works. That's not how that works. But we're going to go through the team real quick, and I'm going to show you exactly why I think this team is 1 or 2 steps away from really taking over the league. Now, it's going to be tough with both the Bengals and the Chiefs in their division, as well as the Bills even here as well. I think it's just going to be very hard to get around those teams. It's going to be a very big battle. If the Ravens come back and if they can finally get some of their guys off of injury, I think they'll be good. But this team does have some talent. You got your franchise quarterback. You got a good running back. Now, do I think you should pay him? Probably not. You don't want history to repeat itself. Keenan Allen has been one of those wide receivers that I think just puts up numbers, good numbers every single year. Either gets just a little overhyped or a little underrated. I don't think it's either or. I think he's a good wide receiver. I think he's the Mike Evans of the AFC, to be honest. Puts up good numbers, has a good year, and then everybody either overreacts and puts him too high, or they underreact and put him too low. I don't think anybody ever properly rates him. I think he's a very good wide receiver, though. Mike Williams, he's been fine. I don't think he's anything like too special, but he's definitely a number 2 that you want to keep around. Right guard's a problem. Left guard, you could look to upgrade. Brian Bulaga has to stay healthy one of these years. Tight end, you have some youth, but none of them have really stepped up. Jared Cook has been very good for the last couple of years as well. You got some talent at the linebackers, and Drew Tranquil, Kenneth Murray, and Kaiser White. Your edge rush is fine as long as you can retain both of them. Your safeties are fine. I think Nasir Adderley needs to take that next step this year, or you need to look to replace him. But your cornerback squad is kind of weak, especially when injuries hit your cornerback squad at week, 13 or 14? I remember watching a game, and Asante Samuel was your only starting defensive back. Well, your only starting cornerback. And then he went down, so you had a bunch of no names. Ryan Smith. Is it Damian? Devontae Harris. But this defensive line needs to be upgraded. It's just that simple. Jerry Tillery has been a bust, and he's going to continue to be a bust. Justin Jones, Linval Joseph, and Chris Covington are all coming off contract. But they're not all that talented either. It's not like you're losing a superstar guy. So this is what I will do in the offseason. I'm going to bring back Nwosu. I'm going to bring back White. Kenneth Murray's going to hop up to that number 1. We're going to end up bringing in some corners and some defensive linemen. We're also going to try to fix this O-line and maybe even get a tight end. There's not a whole ton to do if you can retain a lot of the talent. The question is, can they stay healthy? I think at one point you guys were missing 3 or starting offensive linemen. Your first 2 tight ends were out at one point, I'm pretty sure. you guys were relying on like Andre Roberts to be like one of your top wide receivers. It just wasn't a good year for you guys. Injuries got hit hard. You guys still prevailed pretty well, in my opinion. Just when you have that many injuries and you have that many backups and practice squad guys having to play, you're gonna get tired. You're gonna get worn out, and a team with better depth is just gonna beat you. And I think that's exactly what happened with the Raiders in the last game. I don't think talent was there for the Raiders. I think they just had a better, well-rounded team. I think they had a deeper team. This re-sign period is very dangerous. If we go ahead and spend too much money and bring a lot of these guys back, we could end up holding our dick in free agency and not really being able to do anything. And then we'll have to rely too much on the draft. Now, in real life, of course, you'd bring guys back like Justin Jackson, Kaiser White, Jared Cook, Linval Joseph, Chris Harris, Mike Williams, Nwosu, Gunton. You'd probably bring back Hopkins, Fackrell, Jones, Covington, Schofield. You'd probably bring a lot of these guys back. You'd probably Parham as well as your punter, probably. But that's not what I'm going to do. I'm bringing back Mike Williams. I'm bringing back Nwosu. But everybody else is going to walk. And you may be saying, why? You can get them in free agency for a lot cheaper. I know that's not how that works in real life. I mean, it does sometimes, to be honest. I've seen guys walk away from teams and then have to go back to that same team because nobody else wants to give them the money that they think they deserve. Mike Williams, I'm giving a 4-year, $65.8 million deal, $16.5 each year, no signing bonus as of right now. The numbers won't be all correct, but okay, we're going to have to franchise tag him. That's cool. Sure, we'll bring him back. Woo. With us not being able to retain everybody that I wanted, including Nwosu, and having to franchise tag Mike Williams, it's going to be a tough offseason. With $65 million to play with, though, it's going to be relatively easy to get a lot of key pieces filled. I'm going to go through and release all the practice squad players as I don't want them, and they take up a little bit of extra money. In free agency, there was a lot of key names that I thought I could go after. But we got to fill plenty of holes, so this is what I would do if I was the Los Angeles Chargers. I'd go after Akeem Hicks. He's coming off contract with the Bears, and he's a very good pass rusher as well as a good run stopper. Now, if you can get him for relatively cheap, he's very good. But if you overpay him, he's not going to be on the field 24/7. He just isn't that type of guy. Dante Jackson, if the Panthers do decide to let him go after signing Stephon Gilmore and having plenty of good guys in C.J. Henderson and J.C. Horn, as well as I think they have one other guy at corner that they particularly like, there's no reason for them to pay Dante Jackson. We're going to try to pick him up and sweep him away from the Steelers. Zach Ertz is a good veteran that could be coming off contract with the Arizona Cardinals, and I think he'd be a good weapon for your pass-heavy offense in LA. Will Lutz might get released by the Saints just because of injury history, as well as they don't have much money. I know every team's going through this phase of changing contracts and shit. Linval Joseph, I would bring back. Jayon Brown, I think he's a step up from Kaiser White, and I don't think Drew Tranquil is the answer. Pair him and Kenneth Murray together. Chris Harris coming back. Jamal Williams, if the Lions decide to let him go, if they don't think he's the option either, sign him to a backup role. Nwosu, we're going to have to pay, so we're paying him a little bit extra. Sheldon Richardson, a good defensive lineman that can step in. O.J. Howard, another tight end in a pass-heavy system, could produce very well. Jordan Berry, good punter. Darius Phillips, just a man-to-man corner. You're going to be playing a lot of man-to-man, I feel like. Get him in there. Pair him with Asante Samuel. He's young. He can still develop. Ashawn Robinson has proven he can be a good run stopper for cheap. Solomon Thomas, good pass rusher for cheap. Bobby McCain, good backup safety that could play both sides. Both safety positions. And he's a very good corner as well. Lorenzo Carter kind of fits this scheme of what you're going for, of fast outside backers that are long, lengthy. Jonathan Hankins, good run stopper. Giovanni Bernard, good third running back on your team. Good pass catcher, can find holes. He's just getting old, so teams don't like him as much. Kyle Long would be a good filler for a year or two at right guard. Stephon Weatherly, another outside backer that could come in and play. Kamale. Mitchell Trubisky, good backup QB. I think if Mitchell Trubisky's your backup, I think you're in good shape. And then Gabe Neighbors, of course, bring him back. So we ended up getting a lot of guys that actually won it. Akeem Hicks, Dante Jackson, Zach Ertz, the three big targets on our board. This will help shore up our defensive back room. our defensive line, and our tight end group. We ended up getting Will Lutz, Jayon Brown, Chris Harris, Jamal Williams, Nwosu, Sheldon Richardson, O.J. Howard, Jordan Berry, Solomon Thomas, Jonathan Hankins, Giovanni Bernard, Lucas Patrick. We ended up going after because he was a good, he was pretty good with the Packers. I have to say that. And Mitch Trubisky as well as Gabe Neighbors. We filled a lot of holes. We still have a couple left, so let's head to the draft and we'll look at the team afterwards. From my understanding, Brandon Sheriff is supposed to be leaving the Washington football team, but in the Madden universe, he ends up getting re-signed. But I heard that they are on complete opposite ends right now and he wants to leave. I'm not quite sure if his contract is actually allowing him to leave this year, but we are going to basically be doing a trade. Drew Tranquill is going to be coming off contract, and I think picking up a guard that has already been proven to be good is better than drafting somebody and hoping that they become somebody like Brandon Sheriff. So trading Drew Tranquill, KJ Hill, and a second-round pick of this year for Brandon Sheriff. Trading for 2 backup edge rushers here, giving up a 5th of next year, and our backup right guard in Benton James, I think, for Julian Aquara and Austin Bryant.
Saints.
With the Chargers' first-round pick, we're going to be taking Tavon Wise here. I think he's one of the better players on the board. 6'4" guard out of UCS. They got to shore up the line a little bit more. I think Matt Filer, if he's the weakest link, it's still a fine offensive line, but that doesn't mean you can't upgrade. Zach Shelton, a 5'8", 180-pound wide receiver out of Massachusetts. Good athletic traits. Need a number 3. I just don't know if, Joshua Palmer is the guy. So Zach Shelton will try to come compete for that number 3 job. Cole Mitchell, defensive tackle out of Vanderbilt. He's a little bit older, but he should be able to step in right away, help us out, become part of that rotation of the front 7. Rodney Wiggins out of Vanderbilt as well, so we're drafting both their defensive tackles apparently. I didn't even notice that. 22 years old, 6'5", 304. These next couple guys, I'm doubling up on basically the positions I've already taken, just trying to shore up, make sure we get at least one player that can play.
What direction?
Taking another guard here in Montreal Corbett out of Iowa State, 6'4", 302, 22 years old. Good strength, nothing too spectacular athletically, but if anything, he'll be a backup for years to come. This last pick will be Zach Rogers out of BYU, 6'1", 182, 23 years old. Pretty decent athletic traits, but nothing that jumps off the board that screams, potential, number 2. Looking at the team after the perfect offseason, in my mind, of course there's better things. Of course, the fucking, you could trade for a whole new offensive line. You could trade for another left guard. You could trade for a bunch of pieces. You guys could sign a bunch of pieces for super duper cheap. But in my mind, this is a very good offseason. You draft 2 wide receivers who have potential to become your number 3 or that slot option, with one of them having kick return capabilities. You bring in some backup running backs so Austin Eckler doesn't have to carry the load. I understand some Chargers fans do like Justin Jackson. I don't think he's that great. I'd bring in guys like Giovanni Bernard and Jamal Williams. You do need a power back. I think Austin Eckler quite isn't that guy. We brought in Brandon Sheriff. We drafted 2 guys in Wise and Corbett. And then we brought in Ertz and Howard, which is going to help Justin Herbert. And you're going to be able to go into a 2 tight end set, because both of them are very good pass catchers. So that's something. Brought in Akeem Hicks. Drafted a couple defensive tackles, brought in some others in Solomon Thomas, Sheldon Richardson. Still have Jerry Tillery, so if he does end up producing at a high level, he could definitely make a comeback into that rotation. Brought in Jayon Brown to help out Kenneth Murray. They're going to be playing side by side. Julian Aquara and Austin Bryant both were brought in on trades as well. Brought in Dante Jackson and Chris Harris in free agency. I just don't have the money to go ahead and sign, some corners right now. So in real life, you would be able to, but, we can't right now. But I think this would be a very good team, especially with development. I think Nasir Adderley needs to take the next step, as well as Nwosu and Kenneth Murray. Those are your 3 biggest issues right now, is those guys need to take steps. This defensive line, if you can find a good rotation, a way to, match them combo-wise, if you put, Thomas and Hicks out there, you throw out Hankins to get some, run-stopping capabilities. If you go Richardson, you go, the guy that you draft, and Jerry Tillery to help out as well. You have a bunch of options. Let's just put it that way. I think the only thing that's going to be tough is you do have the Chiefs in your division. That's the only thing that I think you can seriously look at and be like, that's going to be our biggest obstacle. Day one is the Chiefs being in your, conference, as well as if the Broncos end up somehow getting Aaron Rodgers, then you got another issue. I don't think the Raiders are going to be as good as they were last year. A lot of Raiders fans were even like, hey, we overachieved this year. We really overachieved, especially with the roster and how many problems we had throughout the season. So I think the Chargers are in very good shape to make a run at the Super Bowl after a perfect off season. Of course, this isn't perfect. Like, there's no way I can sit here and be like, oh, this is the perfect off season. This is gonna be the best off season. Of course not. You could end up trading for another edge rusher. You could end up getting a whole new defensive line. You could get Akeem Hicks and a couple other guys. But I think this is the most realistic and best offseason you could have without anything, super magical and spectacular happening where you get somebody for super cheap. And like I said, the biggest thing facing this team is going to be progression and injuries. You had a lot of injuries last year, and some of these guys just haven't stepped up as much as you wanted to. They need to step up next year, though, especially on the defensive side of the ball, where you were getting outscored and just pummeled last year. With that being said, guys, if you guys enjoyed this content or any of the content here on my channel, whether it's the perfect offseason videos, the roster updates for NBA, 2K, or even Madden, stick around as the offseason will start ramping up. I will be doing more and more stuff with the Madden roster. Since the All-Star break has passed, as well as the trade deadline, not as much is going to happen with the 2K rosters. I will still give weekly roster updates if need be. Those should be already out on the channel because I do plan on releasing this later than those. I'm just recording this beforehand. I don't think anything's going to happen. If you guys want to know when I'm recording this, Ali Marpet just retired within an hour ago, or at least that's when the news hit. So if that gives you some spectrum of when this was recorded versus when it's coming out, that's how I did it. I do record all these with the real life rosters after the Super Bowl. I don't, spend an hour trying to figure out who beat who and what records were. So there were some glitchy stuff, Colin Kaepernick, Antonio Brown, Damon Arnett, Henry Ruggs, still all in the free agency. But that being said, I'm out. Peace.